Hey everyone, welcome to Buzzing About Romance, a quick shot of romance. I am Becky, and I am joined for this quick shot of romance by Carolina. Hi, Carolina.
Hey, Becky.
So we have been deep diving into cowboys, and when this episode
hmm
drops, we will have dropped our cowboy episode. So this is one of the books you discovered along your cowboy journey.
I did. I was looking for books in KU of authors that I hadn't read before. Um, and the interesting part about this series is that in Goodreads, it's Cowboy Classified is the name of the series. But when you look at it which is like four books, when you look at it on Amazon, it's Cowboys of Moss Creek, I think,
Yeah.
and it's six books, and which actually is the first four books are the brothers, and then I think she tried to do a spin-off series, which is book five and six, but on Amazon she combined them all
All.
because it all six books because
I,
it's all happens in Moss Creek.
I do think that she recently did a rebranding with the covers, possibly.
Um, the the covers on are the same that are on Goodreads as
On
in
Amazon.
and Amazon, and she didn't change the titles because the first four books, it's like Cowboy Seeks Nanny.
Nanny.
Cowboy, the book we're doing today is Cowboy Seeks Second Chance. Then it's Cowboy Seeks Wedding Date, and then Cowboy Seeks Love or
She kept
something
kind of
like
the
that.
classified. So, as
Yeah.
Carolina said, we are reviewing Cowboy Seek Second Chance by Janice Whiteaker. This is book 2 in the Moss Creek Cowboys, previously the Cowboy Classified series. You can find the synopsis of this book in our on the shelf show notes at buzzingaboutromance.com. There is like a little author's note that says Cowboy Seeking a Second Chance is the second standalone installment in the Sexy Cowboy Classified series. Each book is a complete story that will leave you longing for days on the ranch with a cowboy who works just as hard during the day as he does at night. And I will say it does because they break a bed.
Oh my God, that was the best.
So funny.
Yeah. Oh, and you know what? It wasn't even during the act. It was like after, and they were sleeping, and all of a sudden they hear a noise, and bam,
The
the bed
bed just
shakes.
falls down.
That was the best.
So this released February 26th of 2021. It is a cowboy romance. It's a second chance, small town, close proximity, but that comes in later. The close proximity
hmm
comes in later. These are high school sweethearts. This is a slower burn. I think that a lot of times we see this in second chances, that there is a little bit slower of them coming together because they have to move past the past and whatever kept them apart to identify and recognize the chemistry that is pulling them together
hmm
now.
And honestly, because I binge read this series, like I found it enchanting and fun. There's a lot of elements of like cowboys that I love, the quality in cowboys and cowboy romance that I love about this. The hardworking, the charming, the protector, the family, that like that just welcomes you in. Um, and honestly, all four of the books, because I'm in the middle of book five, but all four of the books have a little bit of a slow burn. Because I'll also say that all the heroes fall first in this. It's really interesting in this series how they all fall first, but it's for um, the resistance of the heroine is all for different reasons in each of the books in the series.
Um, and like we said, it's Moss Creek Cowboys. This is a series of standalones. This book pops sort of at 43%, but it's actually closer to 50. Um, and there is no third act breakup. So we are going to start adding that to our quick shots of romance. We will not spoil. So if we will simply give you, we'll ask the question, is there a third act breakup? We will say yes, or we will say no. We have no intention of spoiling why there is or why there isn't. It's just to help. We've noticed a trend that a lot of our readers will ask us when we recommend a book. they'll be like, does that have a third act breakup? So we just figure we're going to cut out the middleman, help you a little bit find more titles that
There's
don't.
a this book has a third act incident, but not a third act breakup.
Yeah, I saw somebody. So this author, Janice Whiteaker, she actually writes as two other names. She writes as Josie Watts, which is her rom-com books, and she writes as Gemma Westbrook, which is her romantic suspense books. And there is a little bit of element of crime in this book, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not. It is not crime. Originally, it is not crime that is directed towards the hero or the heroine. Circumstances
Yeah.
eventually happen, and that puts them in the path of the criminal.
Yes.
That was so vague and so
You know,
circular.
and it's really interesting because what we're going to be jumping around this whole episode. Get ready, folks.
Hold on tight.
Because in the original part where there is that crime, the heroine May is a, a, a strong woman. She's, had a second chance. So she's had a broken heart, and she's kind of discovered herself and her strength, and is helping the other women that are becoming part of this like girl gang, right? Like, and the women that ultimately end up marrying all the brothers. Um, she provides strength and support to one of the other women. And because of that, and she's very assertive and direct in this situation, it then kind of comes back to her. But she's doing it out of love and support and protectiveness herself
Yeah.
for the women that she's the women group that they've kind of put together.
Well, let's talk about May as a heroine. So it's been 10 years. She was high school sweethearts with Boone Pace. And as Boone was graduating high school and turning the age of 19, he said, see ya. I'm going to go be a cowboy in the rodeo. And he walked away from her after they had spent all this time together planning and talking of a future. He felt more drawn to being a cowboy than staying in Moss Creek and being her partner. His family owns a big ranch spread. His mother, first of all, don't get on her wrong side, because she was so
No,
mad at him for leaving 10 years ago. She will not let him stay in the house.
nope, he has to stay in one of the ranch hands cabins.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't,
And he
he
doesn't
can
even
come
go
in for
into the
dinner.
house for dinner.
Oh, he tends to avoid it. He does on occasion, but he tends to avoid it. Yeah.
But he does, like, behind May the one time, and he tries to go for like a piece of pie with his new nephew, and his mama gives him dirty looks, and
She
it's
is not happy with them. It, she she has tight reign and control. But you know what? That's the interesting part of this series is she's much more of the vocal presence and leadership, but his father has just a commanding presence as well. Like, there, it's that true partnership. But
yeah.
in this situation, um, his dad knows that mom, Marianne, I
Yeah,
think the name is,
Marianne Pace.
Marianne he is not, nope, this is Boone's in trouble.
Well, there's a great scene with the family dynamic. The women have gone to the inn because the Pace family is opening an inn on the ranch, like a bed and breakfast type place. And Pace, or Bill Pace, Boone's dad, has the men cleaning up after dinner and cleaning up the kitchen, and says, we do all the dishes. We don't give the women anything to be upset about. We share the load. And his dad questions him, like, why are you fooling around with May? Like, what are your intentions? And
Mm-hmm.
basically, like, if you screw up again, you aren't going to even have a ranch hand cabin to stay in.
Yeah, it's pretty great because his brothers are a little bit, his brothers give him a hard time about it, but not in the same way as
Yeah.
his mom and dad do. On the flip side, I will also say that one of the things that I love about the series too, and it's pretty typical for cowboy romance if you have the matriarch that she like when these heroes and heroines come in that are not part of the family, she swoops them in. Like she is mother hen and protective and supportive and Marianne is very much that way. Like
She is, and she's kind of an intense character, and she did remind me of the mother from Lauren Landish's Cowboy romances. Like, I think if you
yeah,
liked those Lauren Landish books, you would absolutely love this book.
Lauren Landish is a little bit steamier, I would
Yes.
say. But it still has that same cowboy family vibe. If that's what you're looking for, this was a completely like shoot, I binged it. I couldn't stop reading the series.
Right. Well, I think one of the things I really liked about this book is this setup that while Boone was stuck in place, he realizes the mistake that he made leaving 10 years ago. He's come home with the purpose of not to necessarily find his place with amongst his family, it's to win May back. And he's doing everything he can to be on the periphery, to know
Mm-hmm.
that he's there, but he's not in her face until finally there's a small situation. She's been stood up on a date and it's raining. She gets a flat tire on the road. He
Mm-hmm.
sees her, he comes to her rescue, and boy, does he set her up. He, like, the author was very intentional with saying, like, he threw the tire in the back of his truck. He threw the spare when they found out it was flat in the back of his truck. And the author was very intentional to make those notes, which I love
You're
because,
like, oh, this is gonna mean something. Like this is coming back, right?
right? I'm like, oh, this is so good. And he's like, come on, I'll drive you. Never think, like, never in the heroine's voice does she say, crap, how am I going to get my car tomorrow? How will I get my job done tomorrow? And May owns a diner in town that only serves breakfast and lunch. It is the
Mm-hmm.
go to spot in the small town, and she is known for her pies. Also, if anybody knows the beach pie that she makes with the salty
Yes.
cracker crust and the lemon
Yep.
curd and the
The lemon curd. Yep.
if
And
anybody
you know
has
what?
that recipe, could you send that to us? We would like to make it.
I would also like if somebody has a really good peach ginger pie, because that's also a favorite of the hero as well. That sounded really good. And you know what? The funny thing was is like pie, and I also like how you
Shocking, you picked up on a foodie romance.
I know I did. I love it.
Shocking.
Shocking. The foodie picks up on food. But the other part too is that Boone at one point was like, do you happen to have cherry pie? Or he has this whole scene with Wyatt, who's the son
The
of
nephew.
the
He's the
single
nephew.
mom. He's the nephew. Yeah. And he was part of book one. They have this whole conversation in the kitchen of the house. And like Wyatt's like, yeah, May's pie is the best, but don't tell Mimi,
Right?
which is Marianne, which is grandma. Like,
Don't tell.
like
There's I will say that one of the things I really enjoyed about this book is there are children. They're not the hero and heroine's children, they're nieces and nephews.
mhm,
There was enough little sprinkling of them into the story that it gave some humor.
mhm.
And it just made me giggle and it made me fall in love more with the setup of the family because there's this one scene where one of the young twin girls is talking about putting the chicken down the slide and she really wants to go and do it again and again. And Mimi asks her, but do we think the chicken liked the slide? Or her mother asks her, do we think the chicken liked the slide? And like the way the author describes it is basically she scrunches her face and says, Mimi says no.
Yeah, and I liked that too about this series is that once you meet characters, they continue on throughout the series. You
Yeah.
continue to build that relationship, which
So
is great.
we
Um,
mentioned, go ahead.
no, I wanted to go back to just their relationship, because he goes away and I know that some people have a hard time with second chance. And after I finished this book, I texted Becky saying, I think we should do this book for a quick shot. And I'm like, I know Second Chance is not your favorite, but
It's
I
not.
also feel like this one was a better second chance than most, because he knew kind of once he stepped away that he made a mistake, but he kind of had to live with those decisions. And as you get through the story, and there's a part that I want to read, a quote, not a quote that they said, but his thoughts of, May also did growing up. And I don't think if they stayed together, they wouldn't have this type of relationship that they did now. Um,
Yeah, read your quote and then I'll tell you what I think about it as a second chance.
okay. Um, And I will also say we got to talk about May makes him grovel. She makes him
She
work
does.
for it. Okay. He left a girl and came home to a woman, one who knew her worth, knew her strength, one who was comfortable with who she was and what she wanted. And for a heroine, I loved that because there's so much power in a person and a woman knowing their strength and their worth.
Well, and I think for a second chance, the reason this worked for me as a second chance is because we are not the same people at 18 and 19 that we are at 28 and 29. 10 years of life changes who you are. And I think you're absolutely right. And that quote does state very well that they were not the young dreamers at 19 and the immaturity. And, she talks about how if he had never left, she knows she would have just been a wife and a mother. And she doesn't say it like it's a bad thing. It's not that she wouldn't have been happy with that, but she kind of likes where she's at and what she's built for herself at this point.
And not that she doesn't want to be a wife and mother anymore, but she made something, she created the diner and built the diner. She talks about the diner being her baby. That would have never happened if that was the case. The other part too is she talked about how she was shy, a little bit more introverted, and having this time and having to stand up for herself and make this, you know, build this business. She, had a lot of strength and grew quite a bit. So I love that journey for them. Where and that's why I love the second chance as well. It's a much better time for them.
Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about his grovel because this is not like he walks into the restaurant is like, "Hey May, I'm here. Let's be together again." She's like, because after the whole tire incident, she says, "Let me pay you," and he says, "No, you can give me lunch." She's like, "Fine, come to the diner," and he walks in. And he's like, "So what should I have?" And she's like, "You'll have what I give you." Like,
Yep.
we're not make him a special. I'm not giving him anything extra. Um and I'm really shocked she didn't just make him pay for it too.
Well, I think that was kind of that debt. But he also found ways to be around her and show that he was in it. Like he came into the diner and she was backed up and she had somebody call in, and he's like, how can I help? She was in a pinch. So she's like, okay, what's the worst job somebody can do? Or like the hardest job somebody can do? He's like, go wash dishes.
Yeah.
Like, and he did it. He did a bunch. He had to take a break for whatever reason. And then she was like, no, you can go. It's the end of the day. I'll finish. He's like, no, I'm in this. I'm washing the dishes. I'm getting it done.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of acts of service in that groveling, which was great.
There was. And I think there's an incident with one of May's employees and a husband. So content trigger warning, there is domestic abuse, but to a supporting character.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a scene after some things have gone down with the husband with May and Boone in the police station in the lounge for the policeman where May's supposed to be giving her statement, Boone's supposed to be finishing his up. And there's this police officer, Grady, who comes in, and May has dated Grady. And Boone, has this realization that, oh, like, And I think she even says to him at that point, I could be married now and have 5 of his children,
Right.
but I'm
She
not.
kind of throws it. Yeah. She kind of throws it in his face. It's great.
It's really great. No. Um I think what I liked too is May had no problem showing Boone her hurt and
Mhm.
almost her hatred for him. I don't know that she truly hated him.
She hated him for hurting her and hurting her so deeply because I think the breakup was a shock to her. I don't think she saw it coming. She was on the path and she was ready to be his wife and have babies with him and live that life.
Yeah.
She knew what that life was, because she grew up in Moss Creek. And she avoided the family. And she talks about how it wasn't just losing, her boyfriend. It was losing Marianne. She avoided Marianne quite a bit, even in the beginning of the book, because she was really nervous of that connection.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it was I think it was a really good book. The only piece that kind of bugged me a little bit was is she talks about her parents and how kind and supportive they are and with the incident that happens and stuff. Again, it's a short read. It reminds me a lot of category romance almost, because of length and the way it paces itself. I just wish we had had some kind of interaction sprinkling in of that connection with her mom and dad.
mhm.
Because she talks
Because
about,
we really don't get like an actual presence, an appearance from them until the third act,
yeah,
and it's super short.
super.
But I honestly didn't mind it. I felt like they would have cluttered the page to a certain degree, because this was really about, and this whole series is really about the Pace family.
Yeah.
And
I just think that my quandary came in the beginning when she talks about the risks that her parents took signing
yeah,
the restaurant for her. And there's a piece where she's kind of short on restaurant help. It,
yeah,
it
no,
was just one little piece that I think would have helped anchor her more as a character.
yeah.
But other than that, like it wasn't like a giant, oh my God, why did we never meet the parents? Not as we have had in past books.
Oh yeah,
This was just like, I just wanted a little more of who May's foundation was.
yeah.
Because we saw her as the fierce fighter. We saw her as the brokenhearted. We saw her as
Hmm.
the business owner, the take charge woman. We saw her
Hmm.
put Boone to his knees.
Hmm.
I just wanted to see us, like we see her heart with Camilla, her employee, but I just wanted just a little something more to see that foundation of who she was as a character.
Yeah,
It could have been done with a phone conversation.
yeah.
So, and
I can see that.
anyway, anything else you want to say about Cowboy Seeking Second Chance?
No, I enjoyed it. I think the series could be read as standalones, but they're definitely interconnected.
Sure.
So
We do have in the archives in the feed Cowboy Seeks Nanny quick shot, so you can go back and listen to that. I will link it in our on the shelf show notes. I believe Leah and Mindy, author Mimi Kinley, did that quick shot review. So there's that. Carolina, thank you so much for joining me for this quick shot of romance.
it's been a pleasure as always.
Until next time, everyone, happy reading.
Find us on Instagram at Buzzing About Romance or on Twitter at Buzzing Romance. If you like the podcast, please leave a review. If you'd like to support us directly, join the Bookcase and Coffee Patreon and receive exclusive content only available to Patreon members. Check out bookcaseandcoffee.com for our on-the-shelf show notes.